So I'm Dee Morales. I should go by Dee. I forget my last name half the days that I wake up in the morning. And I am here and excited to see all y'all faces. Number one, I'm just going to say you look great. Not in garden clothes. I'm just going to put that out there because actually the last conference that we had year before last was the first time I saw most of you out of garden clothes. So we're doing it again. I am the founder of 813 Hood Garden. I hate to use the word founder, owner. I like steward. So I'm a land steward at that space. And with regards to the fabulous folks that you guys see up here, some of us have been doing community gardening for a while, so we're not too new, but we've been doing some exciting, amazing things. So we are going to share some of those, and there's a couple of gardeners that we have spoken to over the past, I want to say 6 months, that are interested in starting new gardens. So the reason that we're sharing our process is because of the fact that there are people that want to start new gardens and don't know how. So you guys are experts, but these are the newest batch of experts. So they're going to share some of those steps along with some of you guys sharing as well. So we'll go ahead and start with Farmer Jenise.
All right, can I sit here or do I need to stand up on that mic? Wow, the mic sounds really nice to me. Check one. Those of you who are as old as me will know. But my name is Jenise Carr. I am the community garden manager and community garden and food pharmacy manager for TampaWell. And TampaWell is activated by TGH, Tampa General Hospital. We are, I like to call us on that next level in terms of understanding that people's wellness and health has to do with what they're putting in their mouth. And that if we're going to meet people at their points of care, that we're going to need to try to develop some type of strategy that not only meets them when they're at critical points of care, but also preventative points and also helps participate in their wellness. So, so I put together a little bit of just some slides that I can talk to just to tell you about what I do. And in the meantime, I'll just continue to talk and tell you about myself. So my name is Jenise. I have been doing organic farming for about 10 years. I got into farming because, quite honestly, I was sick and tired of being sick and tired. And at that time, I was growing my family. I think I was on my first child, my second child, and my family started to die of diseases. And I really cried and wailed and maybe prayed and asked the Lord why people are dying of these type of diseases. And he said the food. So I thought, well, I'm gonna look into this and see what's going on with that since I'm responsible for that. There we go. And so this is why I started to change the way that I ate, because I was nursing my children at that time, and eventually I thought, you know what would be the next stage? Isn't there some place where you can go and just pick up like fresh vegetables that are freshly grown, and they'll teach you how to grow food? And that's how I got involved with community supported agriculture. And going there and participating in it, they would have a ute pig. I just fell in love with being outside. I really did not think that this brown skin, the melanation in it was for me to be outside, but to be inside. And fell in love with the process and started to change my family's health legacy with that. And after 9 years of organic farming, then I met with TampaWell. And TampaWell is activated by Tampa General Hospital. It comes specifically birthed out of our Community Health and Wellness Department, and we were really looking at our food as medicine program, and trying to find how can we reimagine how we present care to our community and how we present care to our patients. Because we were starting to notice, especially with the main campus, how many things were, people were coming either malnourished. They were many diet-related type illnesses that they were coming in with, coupled with food insecurity. So they weren't having the right access to get the things that they need to properly care for themselves, to get themselves better. So this is how TampaWell, we'll go back to TampaWell, I'm gonna do that quick and then we're gonna run through everything else. So we were founded on these 3 pillars, the ones that I want to, do not go in front of the speaker, but partnerships. This is what our main pillars are: mental health, movement, and healthy eating. We understand that those three things are some of the most important things that help people get well, to get better, and to stay healthy. We understand in order to do that, the partnerships is key. So Mayor Castor mentioned earlier that the city of Tampa, with the initiative, we piggybacked into their initiative and to get support for this idea, and this is one of the reasons why they're heard. We can go to the next slide. So we wanted to find the area that we could have the most impact, the area that had the most need, and we chose East Tampa. As you can see, in all of Hillman County, the area where we have a small hub, where we have a family care center, pediatrics, OBGYN is right in 33610 in East Tampa that is called Health Park. So we had a major center of care right in the middle of one of the areas that had one of the largest disparities. And we thought, heck, this is a great place for us to do our community garden. And incidentally, many of you have been there, some 30th and Hannah. They had a huge, unused lawn that was just right for this type of project. So we're gonna move to the next one. So this is this was the outline of the entire garden. So you'll notice over to the right, that's where there are all the gardening beds. It's right next to a building where our family health park, family care center is. And then going around that little, I call it the Red Brick Road, that blue building is the food pharmacy. So the food pharmacy is probably one of the highlights of the community garden, and I'll explain to you why. Next one. So this is our food pharmacy. So our food pharmacy is directly connected to any patient that's seen in that health park area. So that is OBGYN, that's also specialty doctors that you go to particular things like the podiatrist, wound care, different things like that. And then also family care. So you see them on a regular basis. So any of those patients that have a food insecurity, there is questions that we ask, they're SDOH questions. It's just trying to identify where their challenges are that impact their health. And if they have a food insecurity, they're a health park patient, and they have a diet-related illness, particularly a diagnosis of any type of diet-related illness like diabetes, pre-diabetes, hypertension, then they're able to come to and obesity. They're able to come to the food pharmacy by referral, which gives them 6 months every week. They can come in every week for 6 months and get fresh fruits and vegetables and shelf-stable, healthier items for every week. All right, next one. This is an example of our food pantry. Some of our patients that are coming in, it is where they can shop on their own and pick up those other things that they want. We give them a guideline. They can choose the things that are familiar to them. We just try to make sure that we have the best, some of the healthier items for them to choose from. Go to the next one. The reason why the food pharmacy is important is because it's a gathering space for that critical point of care for those people in 33610 who need some type of illness, who have some type of chronic care. Because we want them to come into the garden, to come and get this space every week, because we're also introducing them to those things that are healthy for them. Being out in the sunshine, having a beautiful place, lending into that positive mental wellness that is one of our pillars, and then also creating the opportunities to learn how to grow food, to see food being grown, and then the best part, which is where they get to take home some of those things that are harvested. So then the next one. So this is just an example of our community garden. It's relatively new. We just saw our beds up and going really like December, end of November, December, and we had our grand opening in the end of January. So some of them are rather small. You'll notice there's 5 ADA accessible beds for people with limited mobility. We also have 21 raised beds that are connected into the garden. The next one. This is what we're envisioning. This is phase 2 of the garden. The outdoor pavilion, this is going to be the space where we're going to have field trips, classes, any classes from nutrition to cooking to positive mental space. I got some really good ideas about maybe some painting classes, maybe even a community gathering space for some of your organizations. So we want that particularly to be a teaching place and a gathering space. This is connected right next to that. It's over the on the other side, but it's a children's area. All of those areas are meant to be sensory, so we can use that in different ways of care and how things grow. This is a mindfulness garden where they're also going to be doing different types of activities, wellness related, because all of that is related to wellness. And the next one. That's all. This is the volunteer opportunities. I've probably taken all my 10 minutes, and I probably only had 6. But volunteer opportunities are available. You cannot see that little QR code. It's on the other side of that. But we do have, at this time, had volunteer hours Monday and Wednesday, and from 9 to 11, and then on Friday from 9 to 11 for the food pharmacy, just to get everything stocked and put in, because we get deliveries every day. And then we harvest every Monday from the community garden, and that goes to our patients and anyone who comes to help her, or anyone who comes to volunteer. So I hope to see you all at the garden. Next one, I'm shooting through this all quick. TampaWell also has an app where I am fighting for us to have a community garden page so that we'll connect into everything that you're doing at your gardens as well. But this is where it's at now. I just encourage you to download that and then partner with us later on, because it will connect everything that you're doing at your garden and getting your volunteers at the same time. So that's it. My name is Jenise. If you need to talk to me and get my contact information, please talk to me afterwards. All right.
So she said connecting somewhere in her speech. She doesn't lie. I met her 2 years ago now, and we've stayed in touch. Anytime she had anything coming up, she'd be like, "Hey Dee, I got this coming up, what do you think?" And she literally connects. Next up, we have, y'all heard Saul? Y'all heard Saul? Saul. All right, so we have Miss Charlotte up next. You sure can.
Stay out of the way of them. Hi everybody, it's good to see most of your familiar faces. I'm basically going to read my timeline, and then Kitty can go over some slides afterwards. Let's see, we moved to Tampa in 2015. My husband and my son and I, this was an Air Force assignment, and from the very beginning I was like, I wonder if I could start a community garden. And I said it over and over and over again every year, but I didn't do anything until I was locked in my house for COVID. And then I gave it a lot of thought, and I woke up one morning and I said, I wonder who can help me start a community garden. Well, my friend Diana Kyle hooked me up with Kitty Wallace, and Kitty Wallace came out and she toured my neighborhood, and she scoped out some places, and the folks at the Gandy Civic Center gave me this big empty lot behind their center. And while we waited to kind of get the ball rolling, after I sent out some feelers in the neighborhood to see who was interested, we waited for the city to tell us what we needed to do to get this garden going in the backyard of the Gandy Civic Center. Was it zoning? Was it permitting? What was it that we needed to do? So from the end of August of 22 to the end of March of 23, when we stuck our shovel in the ground for the very first time, we impatiently tried to see how we could be a good community garden. We went to Seeds of Faith, we went to Vista, we went to Apollo Beach. Where else did we go? We went to Oldsmar, we went to Seminole Heights Community Garden, and we asked everybody questions because we just needed to know, how do we start a community garden, and what do we do, and if you knew then what you knew now, what would you do differently? And every little bit of information that everybody from Kitty all the way to every one of you that we visited, if you came to our garden, you might think, oh, they really did listen, and we made the changes, and our garden looks a lot like the information and the advice that you gave us. So during that time frame, we had to spend a few months trying to figure out how we were going to pay for everything. So we started this program with this group called Seed Money, and they help community gardens raise money. And between them and the Tampa Garden Club, let's see, Tampa Garden Club gave us a grant for $2,000, and through seed money, we raised almost $4,000. So we were ready to spend that money, finally got to go, and started building our garden. So phase one, Kitty, if we could go to the big empty lot. This was phase one a year ago. So literally a year ago in April, this is what we look like. Kitty's advice to us was, I said, if you knew now then what you knew now, what would you do differently? And she said I would build all the beds in a row, and I wouldn't put any spaces in between because it means more weeding. So all you have to do is weed between the beds now, and you don't have to weed in between all the small boxes. So that's Kitty's implementation or advice. So this is what we looked like last week. We have those 20 member beds. We have 17 tropical and other types of trees growing on the right-hand side. Across from it, we have 20 additional beds. That was our phase that we just finished over the winter. And from those beds, is there a blue line on there? Oh, well, the blue line. Those beds, we will be growing food to donate to the SOG community. To food pantries and homeless shelters and other types of organizations who need food. And also on Interbay near MacDill Air Force Base, a good indication of a food desert is where you see a lot of dollar stores, and we have a lot of dollar stores. And all those people in those apartments walk from the dollar stores to their apartments, back and forth with their grocery bags. And that's how they do their grocery shopping. So once our garden beds are growing and producing well enough, we would like to pull into those apartment complexes and open our trunks and just say, here you go. Because if they had a vehicle, then they would go to Publix 1.5 miles away, but they don't, and that's why they shop at the dollar store. So this is our pollination garden, which was part of phase 2. That beautiful art is not still there. A friend parked it there for a month while he was, doing a show in Tampa. So when you come visit, it still is a beautiful pollination garden, but without the art. We got a greenhouse, so now we're growing all our own starter plants. Today, they were installing the misting system. So we will have our own misting system, which will be irrigating and watering all our own starter plants, so we don't have to go out to any nursery and buy plants from them. We can do it on our own because we know exactly what we need. As of 2 weeks ago, we have a brand new apiary, and we have 3 hives. Some of you that I visited, you had hives already. We were so impressed with Vista's hives and their area that one of our members said, if I go to bee school, can I have some hives? And we're like, okay. So we raised the money, and now today we were getting our 3rd hive, and they have their own little corner. That's the 20 new beds that we were building before, back up. Those are the 20 new beds that we were building to donate to. And Apollo Beach, thank you for the idea of the pineapple canoe, because I love the pineapple canoe idea, and everything we ask for, we get. And we're so lucky that way. We put it out into the universe, and it's like, well, let's see, maybe somebody will give us a canoe. Somebody gave us a canoe. Well, we need soil for the canoe. We asked on our Facebook page. We got 40 bags of soil, and we didn't even need 40 bags of soil. So we were very fortunate to get that. This is the blue butterfly pea. Some of you are coming by and drinking the lemonade. You can pick the flowers right off the vines, dry them, make the tea. I've heard it's a very calming tea to drink at night. We kind of like cocktails out of it, but lemonade, it starts out blue when you brew it, and then it changes immediately to purple when it hits citrus. These are the roselles. I am telling you, roselles are like the new cover crop, people, because you can't eat sun hemp or the buckwheat, well, easily. But after these flowers grow and they are enriching your soil so incredibly. In one box with roselles, the soil was just stunning and beautiful, and we ate the roselles all summer long. I made syrups. There's the purple. That's a margarita that has the blue butterfly pea on the top, the margarita in the middle, and the roselle syrup on the bottom. And one of our sponsors owns a sports bar. He donated the wine for tonight's event, and he served SOG margaritas for the entire week of Halloween, and those were the drinks that people could drink from the SOGarden, and he made a donation to the garden for that, so we were lucky with that. Here's our beekeeper, Elise, who is also a board member, and she's just a brand new beekeeper, and she's doing a fantastic job. We do several classes, paint classes. This is a worm class on the left. We just started that about a month ago, and it's going really well. We have a new worm class coming up in mid-April or late April. Painting on the right, today our children's garden was being installed by the Girl Scouts that are in our neighborhood or in our area. And we've had so many things that were donated to our garden for free from Boy and Girl Scouts. And they're such a great resource because our fence was put up around the garden. We're getting lean-tos for rain barrels. We're getting elevated beds built from them. They're such a fantastic resource. So, yeah, there's so much more I could tell you about what we did and things for success, but I can speak to questions later. So, thank you.
Thank you very much. So we're going to break it up a little bit. Y'all ready? Put your garden hats on. I started growing some fungi in my garden, but I failed miserably. I guess there was much room for improvement. I liked it. Anybody growing mushrooms? Anyone growing mushrooms? We have any mushroom experts? Fungi expert in the back.
I'm not an expert, but I'm growing lime weed in our house. North Shore is a group that you can grow in a box, and it's delicious.
Nice. Okay, plug in the back.
I've grown twice, but what if you feel like you can't go anymore in the box? You just take the chunk of solid, whatever it is, and put it in the ground and grow it again.
That substrate. We love that substrate. At 813, we actually get them from Mad Hatter, and we put it in our bag. So if you come by, you do a tour, you see a mushroom. It could be oyster, it could be lion's mane, it could be pink oysters are my favorite, so I kind of know. Once I see those. Yeah, you might not see those. But enough about me. Miss Mary, you are up next. Talk about Bethesda.
Okay. Hello, everyone. I'm Mary Bruce. I'm going to talk about how the Jackson Heights, Bethesda / 22nd Street community garden came to be. And I just got this last night, so I'm going to just run down the line here. I've been the hands in the dirt. I'm the grower, so I wasn't so much involved with the organization of how this came to be. So I'm just going to read verbatim right here off of my list. So the Jackson Heights Garden actually came to be because the youth group at the church, during one of their discussions, said, why don't we have a garden here? We have land, we should be planting gardens. So Janelle Birdie, who is the health ministry leader at the 34th Street Church of God, which is very cool in itself because this church has a health ministry leader, someone that is reaching out to everyone in the community and helping them, you know, understand that there are gardens, that we can do things with plants and things that you can do with your nutrition and stuff to improve your life. So we needed money, and we obtained a grant from Ideas for Us, which was funded by the state. The church and Ideas for Us, in collaboration with What We Could Be Exchange, which is the group that I volunteer with Diana Kyle and Jeanette Bradley, and they got the funds to get this started. The funds we needed were to install the gardens, host workshops, to engage in the community, to pay for 12 raised beds with irrigation, tools, the shed, soil, bark, plants, and labor. We did 2 7-week workshops over at the East Tampa and Sulphur Springs neighborhoods through May and June of last year, 2023. In these workshops, we taught them how to start seeds, we taught them about irrigation, we taught them about fertilizing, we showed them how to propagate plants, we learned how to make pots, what else you could use, how you can recycle things, how to compost, and we communicated with approximately 60 different people on any given day in these different workshops. There were a few people involved in the main planning of this. The 4 individuals: Carolyn Chromatic, she was the grant writer and administrator for Ideas for Us; Nathan Farley, who was the garden associate with Ideas for Us; Jeanette Bradley, the What We Could Be Exchange representative who was involved in the garden design; and Janelle Burney, who was the initiator and communicator from the 34th Street Church of God. We did have the health ministry ambassador for the church. They are the ones that currently still sponsor us for things that we do. We're still doing workshops over there. Every couple of months we have like a call to action, and we send out emails and do some videos and stuff just telling folks to come out. We're going to do a work day in the garden. We need help spreading mulch. We need help weeding. And we also do like a free workshop. So we have done irrigation, we have done seed starting, we're doing a medicinal herb one this month on the 30th in the garden. And it's really just a lot of fun. Everyone that comes out there, I'm a grower, but I am way more interested in growing gardeners. There is nothing more exciting to me than having somebody, like, after a workshop come up and say, like, this is so great, I had no idea, this is a whole other world I never even knew existed. Things that went well. So it was a smooth process because the property was already designed, and we had all the permits and the usage, stuff like that was already there. It was actually an old abandoned playground. So the fence was there, we had, there was water in there, I believe, or maybe Nathan had to pull that out, I can't remember how that went, but the Ideas for Us was a very good resource. They were very proactive, they engaged with the public, and they helped us, spread the word and get the word out there about that. The garden attracted 2 dedicated, knowledgeable volunteers from the church to help maintain the garden. We had a woman named Montre and Mr. Wallace. So these were people that, even though anybody that started a community garden before, you can get all the plants planted, you can get everything watered, but if nobody is there on a regular basis, you need somebody there to water, to look after the plants, to see if any bugs are infesting or any kind of fungus are growing, or some animal got in there or whatever. So those 2 were just invaluable to us as far as, every time I came back to the garden, I'm like, where did all those pineapples come from? Who planted this tree? And these guys were just in there every second, putting more things in. It was really, really cool. Excuse me. There was a really positive reception from the neighborhood with these workshops that we were doing. As the grant ended, we immediately established volunteer work days. I already covered that. We had knowledgeable speakers. Things that we would have done differently is we wish that we could have reached out to like the immediate community more. Maybe not necessarily knocking on doors, but when you want to like naturalize something, you need to have a lot of things in one little area, and then it kind of spreads out. That's kind of our goal for these neighborhoods. We are looking forward to doing more community gardens in these neighborhoods, but we want to have almost like an oasis, where you ever drive through a neighborhood and you're like, there's definitely a history of gardening here, because everyone's competitive, there's all kinds of things growing in everyone's front yards and everything, and that's what we hope to do with the Jackson Heights Bethesda garden. And current garden users, primarily from outside the immediate area, indicated that there's potential for further community integration. So we have a lot of people that are coming from like Wesley Chapel to come to our workshops. When I say workshops, it's kind of like adult-free gardening classes that we've been doing. So we spread the word, everybody comes, it's 6-week sessions, we have a schedule, and people can do all 6 or just come drop in for the ones that they feel like they need more help with. I think the Ideas for Us grant kickstarted a movement in East Tampa. It gave us workshops to help generate the enthusiasm around gardening in the food desert. and it helped establish a well-equipped garden space for residents to gather and grow their own food, table and everything. And there's a lot of plants, vegetables, herbs that are still here and not extinct, even though thousands go extinct every day just because of a friendship, because somebody saved a seed from something and handed it to somebody else. And even though it might have sat in your seed cellar for years and years and years, it's reemerged. If you guys look up the story of the fish pepper, it's amazing, because this came from a guy who was in World War I. He saved these seeds. And these didn't reemerge until 1995, because they were found in some guy's, seed safe or whatever. And that's how those peppers came to be. And I think when you start gardening, I draw a lot of parallels between like our life and the plant's life. All the plants have its own cycle. Like cilantro, you plant it, short life cycle. It grows, it bolts, it's done. Everyone's frustrated. Why doesn't it grow longer? Why doesn't it stay there? Trees grow, stay forever. But when you watch plants, it helps you better with life. It helps you better with other people. We all sprouted because here we are. We all started to grow, we all started to bloom, and then bugs came. They knocked us down. We recover, we come back, then, the fertilizer. We've all had heaping, steaming piles of manure dumped on us in life, and it didn't kill us, it made us stronger. Right now, at my stage in life, I'm like setting seeds. I am teaching. I need these seeds to be viable, like in these kids that I'm teaching, and the adults. Because those are going to be the next generation that get planted. Like, I might not be here to see, things change on this planet, but maybe one of them will, just how the cycle of life goes. So I think the more you get into gardening, it just makes you better at life.
So, Miss Mary, she shared with y'all, but she likes to give out plants. So if y'all go to her workshop, Ty will tell you, she will give you like 3, 4, 5 plants and just make sure that you're walking out the door with plants, just like most of you at the other garden spaces that I've been to. I'm gonna tell y'all real quick, I found an egg, an Easter egg, at the Jackson Heights garden when we started building that garden last summer, and it had $10 in it. So they do some good stuff. When you volunteer, sometimes you get some treasures, and I found the golden egg on the playground when we were cleaning it up. It had $10 in it. Just saying. Next up is one of my favorite gardeners. He is, what do you want to call him, Scott? Do I want to say it out loud? He's the giver of giving, okay? So the Healthy 27 ladies can attest for this. He usually comes and he has like a box of plants that he's giving out to people. I don't know how he does it, how he has the energy to continue to do it, but we thank you, Scott, and you can tell us about Town Country.
Yes. Hi, everybody. I am so happy to be here with you today. I remember the last conference was my first time, and since then I've come to visit you in many of your gardens. I've joined a few of them too, and I'm happy to be here today to tell you what I've been up to when I haven't been visiting your garden, and that is Town and Country, where I'm from. This is where I grew up, and two things I want to leave with you today. First is a question, which I will answer at the end. We're all community gardeners. What are we growing primarily? What is it? Brassicas, sunflowers, sun hemp, weeds? What are we growing primarily? We'll get to that later. The other thing is, if I do anything else today, I want to invite you, I want to extend multiple invitations for you to come and visit me in Town and Country. Now, I'm sure many of you have not even been, and I'm going to tell you more about it now. Town and Country is this little tract subdivision just west of the airport. It was built in the 60s on what used to be a cattle farm. It's not much to look at, but there is still some country out there. There is an array of beautiful county parks, like gems in an emerald necklace. There's Sweetwater Park, which is just south of Coastal Avenue from where our garden is located, which is really abuts the Tampa Bay, and it's got some nice coastal features. And there's, of course, Upper Tampa Bay Park just west of us, which is gorgeous. And Jackson Springs Civic Center, where they have any number of county programs. There's a gymnasium, a skate park, and an underutilized so far community garden space there. And of course, in Town and Country, it's an immigrant neighborhood. When I was growing up, it was mostly people from Puerto Rico and Cuba. Now, many people from South America, a lot of Venezuelans coming to the neighborhood now. There are an unbelievable array of unique restaurants and food trucks. Just on the corner where my garden is located, there are not one, not two, but 3 different Peruvian restaurants. There's also an unbelievable Italian market, Cacciatore Brothers. Not to be confused with Cacciatore and Sons on Armenia, which is also good. Cacciatore Brothers is its own thing. You can actually see the sign from this view here. One of the best Italian markets in the country, in my opinion. And of course, there's also Sweetwater Organic Community Farm, which, if we're talking about an emerald necklace, then Sweetwater has to be the crown jewel. For those of you that haven't been, I invite you to come and visit. I'm not an official spokesperson for the farm, but I'm just going to go ahead and nominate myself now. The Sweetwater Farm grows vegetables for CSA shares. They feed about 50 families every week during their season. They have vegetables for sale every Sunday afternoon. They are served as a market for market gardeners and other organic farms and other vendors, honey providers, etc. They are an event space, and they have lodging on Airbnb. But their primary function is simply to serve demonstration of what organic farming is and to provide that education to the community. That's how our garden got started, because Sweetwater Farm acquired some land on Hanley Road, and that is a commercial property. It includes a building that operates as a cafe on Sundays, hopefully more frequently in the future. There's also a food truck, a wood-fired pizza oven, Pizza More. It's run by a lovely gentleman from the Dominican Republic named Carmelo, and they serve breakfast, lunch, and dinner every day. And right in between the food truck and the cafe is my little plot. It's about 1,200 square feet, and this land is owned by the farm, but the farm wanted a community garden in this space. And so they approached the Coalition of Community Gardens and fought at Elcott, put a grant together with Lena, and they came up with the seed funding to get this started. And that's where I came in. I was looking to garden more, and I just jumped in feet first. So this is kind of modeled off of what they were doing at LP 22nd Street. The idea was to just set aside a space and show what is possible. You know, so we started with barrel planters in January of 2023, just showing what's possible, and then moved on to a deep mulch bedding system. So in the summer, we got a huge mulch drop, about 10 yards, and I laid it out, and by like the 1st of June, had it all laid out, and had enough to build 2 beds about 25 feet long, and we just concentrated on planting things that we knew would thrive in the climate, in the conditions that we had, and that was hibiscus, roselle varieties, okra, and pumpkins, Seminole pumpkins, and watermelons. And all of those things just thrive. People say that summer gardening is the hardest. In my opinion, if you grow the right things, summer gardening is the easiest and the most fun because there's just less stress. As long as you get rain, you'll be in good business. And that's exactly what happened last year. The ground was just completely covered by the end of the season with vines from watermelons and pumpkins and the roselle, although we planted about 2 months later than we should have, was very productive, and we harvested gallons and gallons of roselle calyxes, which turned into jam, and we learned all about all the different ways you can eat roselle, including roselle quesadillas, which are actually quite good. So that's it in a nutshell. The thing is, though, that we took a build it and they will come like approach, which is the opposite of some of the approaches you've heard today. We did canvass the neighborhood on multiple occasions and did a lot of community outreach, but so far we haven't had the impact in the community that I wanted, we had it did have quite a few successful events with kids, and anytime that we have an event, there's a food component. That's one of my favorite things to do. So again, I want to extend this invitation to you to come and attend our event. Right now we're growing over 300 plants of corn, which should be ready by May 5th. And so we're having an event called Cinco de Maíz, where we'll be serving the corn that we grew. Be sure to get my contact information so you can check in with me and make sure that the corn is ready by May 5th. But that is the plan. And in addition to growing here on this lot on Hanley Road, what my girlfriend Claudia and I plan to do this summer is to go where the people are, which is down to the Jackson Springs Civic Center, and grow on that garden space there as well, because they've got literally hundreds of children and parents coming in and out of that space every day. And hopefully, and the hope is that we'll be able to leverage that in the future. Oh, thank you once again, and if I've done nothing else, I hope I've invited you to come visit us in Town and Country. Now, the answer to your question, what we are growing, first and foremost, is we're growing gardeners. You stole my line. And second, of course, vegetables.
Thanks, everyone. So before I go, I'll tell you guys a little bit more about 813. I'm trying to stay away from there, so I'm sorry, y'all. Before I tell y'all about 813, anybody have any questions for any of our panelists?
Quick question, Scott. You spoke about mulch. So I would like to know how to utilize the mulch to grow, like what you just showed us. How do you do that?
So I followed, I've watched lots of gardening on YouTube, like I'm sure most of you do. And I was following the example, first of all, of the way that they build the beds at Sweetwater Farm. And Sweetwater, I went and did many volunteer mornings, Sunday mornings at Sweetwater Farm, and saw how that they build their beds. But it's basically just a mixture of compost, manure, and wood chips. And also there's a great gardener in Newport Richey named Jim Kovaleski, and he basically turned his house and his mother's house next door into an urban farm. And they pretty much just use wood chips exclusively. They bring in 10 yards at a time and just spread them out. And then they start with black-eyed peas from Publix and just scatter them out across the wood chips and water them in. The black-eyed peas come up in no time. And then they just they let the peas fix even before they've grown fruit, and they'll mulch that into the soil, and all that extra nitrogen has been fixed into the soil, and then from there he just plants whatever he wants. It sounds simple, and it's not that simple, but that's the approach that I took.
Thank you.
Thank you, Scott. Anyone else? Any other questions? Any question in the back?
Yeah, so I have a question for the people on the right. I'm curious to know what your land use agreements are for the land you're on, and do you have some sort of agreement to hold that land and be community gardens for 5, 10, 15 years? Is it year by year, or is it much more informal? I think TampaWell, you own the concept of the property.
that question, what is the land agreement that we have at our community garden is, I'm not sure long-term, but the church owns the property that we have our community garden on. So I'm sure as long as there's an interest at the church, they'll let us stay there, is my best answer. But I really don't know of any, contract or anything.
The Gandy Civic Center has been in its current location since the 1950s. I don't know that it's really going to be going anywhere, and they had this huge area of open land behind them, and they offered it to us. We don't own it, it's still their land, but we get to stay there for as long as I guess they'll let us, but yeah, hopefully a while.
I saw another question of hand. Oh.
So the Town and Country Garden operates under a memorandum of understanding between the coalition and Sweetwater Farm, who owns the land.
How long is that?
I believe that the farm intends it to be indefinite.
Some years.
Some years.
I saw another hand a second ago. Yes, ma'am?
Yes, I was wondering for all the panelists if you've had any problems with seeds, because some of our seeds, I guess they're too old or something, but we have plants that aren't coming up. Some of them do, but some of them don't.
We're told to always use either organic starting plants or organic seeds, but we've done a variety, Home Depot, organic, some very expensive organic seed companies online, and even those don't germinate sometimes. So some of the seeds that were the cheapest that came from the sale rack behind the tomato soup at Sprouts generated amazing plants, but sometimes I think it's hit and miss. Some companies are very reputable, but right now we're kind of young, so we're still experimenting with that.
Can I ask, did you buy these seeds from someone, or did you save them, or get them from someone? You saved them?
Yeah.
If you're saving seeds, I grow all heirloom plants because I don't want to save my seeds, go through all that trouble, and then next year when you plant, if you plant seeds that are not heirlooms, you don't know what's going to come up the next year. So, like for an example, I had a giant pumpkin. I saved the seeds from it. I was so excited. They were like the size of my hand. I'm like, I'm going to win first place at the state fair next year. I planted them, and actually what grew was those little decorative gourds that you put on your kitchen table and stuff like that around Thanksgiving time. So I would just source some seeds that are better, and like my plants, I start them all in soil blocks, and then I bring them to the brink of death. So I let them all come up, they all look great, and then I let them dry out, because I'm looking for like really strong, drought-resistant seeds. So you just gotta, I would source your seeds a little bit better. And I have some in the car, I'll give you some.
Thank you all.
I think you had all the advice that you needed. I would just add to that is that just always expect that there's going to be some that aren't going to germinate. So make sure that you seed in accordance to what you want your outcome to be. So if you want to make sure you have 10 plants, you may want to plant 15. It's better to lean out those instead of planting a certain amount, even less.
So having good seeds is just one part of the equation. You can have the best seeds in the world, but if you don't provide the other conditions to get your seedlings started correctly, then you're going to have issues. The number one most important ingredient, I think, for getting seedlings started is expertise from people that you can rely on. So if you've known anybody who has done this before, then call on them. And if you don't know anyone, I have a few recommendations. First and foremost is Working Food in Gainesville. The they're an excellent organization, and they have their own seed store, and they have lots of online resources about seed starting. But the great thing about their seeds is that they're collecting seeds and vegetable varieties from all over the world and testing those varieties here in Florida to find the ones that are best suited for our climate. And so I can't recommend them enough. It's Melissa the SOGarden food.
Thank you. Anyone else? Questions, Will?
I'm sorry, I didn't get the area where you were.
We're as far south as you can go. We're way south, Tampa, so if you take, I guess, Gale Mabry all the way south, and you pass Gandy, which is east-west, we are a little less than a mile south of Gandy. So SOG, south of Gandy, we're the community SOGarden. So.
What was the name of this company in Gainesville?
It's a nonprofit. It's called Working Food.
Working Food. Okay.
We should take a field trip.
I'm sorry, I just want to say one more thing about the seeds, because I think Diana's going to jump out of her seat, because Diana loves David Whitbaum's seeds on Whitbaum Organics, and I would be totally remiss if I do not say that, because I know she's dying to say that right now. And he does a lot of work trying to give you great seeds that are going to grow here in this climate, because yeah, if you go buy broccoli seeds from, you know, the dollar store or something, they're probably not going to grow here very well.
Any other questions for our panel? All right, so I'll bring us home at the panelists. So some of the things that I think were mentioned but not really delved into. So some of us started like Scott, where we didn't really have the community. We tried to find community, because they say that saying, if you grow it, they will come, or if you build it, they will come. No. I'm going to keep it real with y'all, so y'all didn't want to hear this. Bathroom was right. So I started my community garden in my backyard. And this was I was growing for a while. But in 2020, when we all had to stay home, I decided to open my space up to the community. Mostly because of the fact that we were home, we were growing just so much stuff because we were bored. I loved it though. And seeing the joy on my son's face, like him going out there and watching the blueberries to see when they were blue enough that he can pick them. Watching the strawberries to see if they were red enough to pick them. So me seeing that in his face, I felt like all kids deserve that. Every child should see that. I then opened up a space so we can have yoga in the garden. And our first yoga session, we ended up harvesting bell peppers. And to my surprise, I thought it was just going to be the kids excited about seeing the bell peppers, because you know they're the little lunch bell peppers. The parents were more excited because they had not seen what the plant looked like that the bell peppers come from. They were used to just going to the supermarket and getting bell peppers. So that also kind of confirmed for me that what I'm doing is the right thing, and being able to have a space where people can come together and learn about where our food comes from, what it looks like. I'm a not official herbalist, so I'm not a herbalist, but I like medicinal plants. I like learning about medicinal plants. So I grow a lot of the medicinal plants. A lot of people want to learn about them, but they're not even sure where to start or what things look like. So I have mullein and comfrey and burdock and all of those herbs that can grow here in our climate that people aren't really aware of that they can grow. So having those at 813 Hood Garden so that people can see them for themselves, to know kind of like, okay, well, the doctor did say da-da-da-da, but I'm not a doctor. I'm not a doctor. But just being able to afford people the ability to see those things in person has brought me to the point now where it's like, okay, when I'm giving away something like yellow dock, at the last seed swap that we had last weekend, yellow dock was one of my favorite things to give away. So if you came and you got yellow dock, anybody took home yellow dock last weekend? Maria, did you take home yellow dock? I only had 6 plants, so I guess no one here the 6. But yellow dock was one of the first things to go. And if you're not familiar with yellow dock, all the benefits is iron. It helps with iron in your body. Hopefully there's nutritionists in the building that can confirm that. See? The other part about 813 Hood Garden Space that I feel is special, and I'm biased, of course, is that we are growing more than just plants. We are growing mind, body, and soul. And you all can attest to that because you're in community spaces. We do more than just growing plants. We have yoga. How many gardens have yoga in the garden? How many gardens get together and have dinners? How many gardens have workshops? How many gardens entertain children? We're growing more than just vegetables. So I just say that to say, keep going,